Hey everyone, it's Wita here. This episode of Wine with Wita, we will discuss mental health as well as suicide. This can be quite distressing for some of you, so I do encourage you to contact Lifeline on 13 11 14, which is a 24-hour counselling hotline, or go to beyondblue.org to obtain relevant resources that you may need. Please look after yourself. Hello, and welcome to Wine with Wita, the podcast that is dedicated to engaging with health professionals and caregivers in meaningful discussions. I'm your host, Rita Shamoon, or as my clients call me, Wita. I'm a pediatric speech pathologist, and I am so excited to have you here. Each week, we deep dive into connecting you with caregivers and healthcare professionals, sharing their insights, stories, and key takeaways to help you with your child's diagnosis and your journey. Whether you are a parent, healthcare professional, a lifetime learner, or simply a wine enthusiast, you're in the right place. So let's sit back and relax and enjoy today's episode. Hey everyone, welcome to Wine with Wita. Today I have a familiar face. If you're from the 2170 area in Sydney, I have Benny the barista, who is not only a gentleman, the best coffee guy in 2170, but also such a joy to be around. Now, Ben, welcome to Wine with Wita.
Thank you for having me. It's really good to be here. I'm very excited. Looking forward to our chat today.
Yeah, I can't wait. Now, for those who have seen Ben, he is the coffee barista at the local coffee shop in Wattle Grove, based in Sydney. He owns the coffee store there, but Ben and I always see each other on a regular basis because I go there every day pretty much for lunch.
Regular
And
customer.
he makes,
Regular.
what was that chicken wrap that you make that I not criticized, but I gave you feedback and you changed the whole recipe for it?
It's the halloumi. It was the halloumi toasty. And we used a
Yeah.
green pesto and then a red capsicum on top, like red capsicum spread. And the flavors just clashed. And so we've done a lot of them now with just the pesto and then others with just the capsicum. Yeah,
Mm.
they're doing quite
So
well. They're
yum.
doing
But
really well.
yes, I did give you feedback on the halloumi. But either
Yes,
way,
yes,
Ben,
which
you've
is
been
always
on my
appreciated.
journey.
Always.
You've been on my journey with the podcast and my business, with starting the potty to then winning the prize to then interviewing a number of guests where we're purposely increasing awareness around issues within society, particularly with children with disability. You have opened up about a personal circumstance and you asked if you could come on Wine with Wita. So welcome.
I did. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really good chat.
Awesome. So if you could tell the listeners who you are, what do you do, additionally to what I've said, but also the exciting news that you told me not long ago, or that happened to you not long ago.
Exciting news. Oh, God. I am Ben Camilleri. I own a coffee shop in Wattle Grove, just out the front of Coles in that shopping village. Recently have become a father, which I'm very excited about. And am starting my whole journey on social media and podcasting and everything like that. So this is awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Now, you did say you became a dad, and what's his name?
Yes. His name is Parker, and he is, I want to say, 13 weeks old to be exact. Almost 14
A
weeks.
bit, a bit.
Yeah, coming up.
How was your holiday season with him?
Nobody warns you how chaotic the first Christmas is. Everyone's so excited, everyone's really happy, it's going to be great, everyone's can't wait to meet him, and then you get there and it's just 4 days of chaos and broken patterns and broken routines and just overwhelming to say the least.
It's like they call it positively exhausting.
Yes, yes, you're there for a great reason, and then by the end of it, you're like, I never want to do that ever again.
So no baby too?
We'll give it a few years. Let's get past the first one. Enjoy the first one for now.
No pressure. I'm that annoying auntie. Where's the next one? Where's the next one?
Everyone, as soon as everyone says you're doing good, they're like, the next one's on its way. I'm like, no, 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 no. Let's build it first.
Also, Ben, you wanted to come on Wine with Wita to discuss your own personal challenges that you had as a young lad and also within your childhood,
Yes.
particularly around being bullied and mental health. Now, not long ago, I
Yes.
interviewed a TV personality called Michael Webb, who was on Australia's Got Talent, and he raised awareness around mental health, and especially that it's the leading, and suicide particularly, it's the leading cause of death in Australia. Now, within a year, over 3,300 individuals take their own life. And every week, about 63 people take their own lives. Now, when you look at those figures, that's huge. That's huge. And we just really need to
Yeah.
increase the awareness around mental health and supporting everyone to talk to each other and providing that support. So, Ben, the platform's all yours. Share your story.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think there is a very positive shift in society now, especially we'll start with, in the whole aspect of men not just being men anymore. We are getting a lot better at being able to communicate what's going on in our head, which is very different to what's going on in mum's head or our wives' heads and our sisters' heads and all that. We are genetically very different and biologically, chemically very different in our brains. And I think that has finally come to the forefront of social media, and there's a lot more positivity around men being able to speak about that. Um, say 10 years ago, in the real front of when I was facing everything, that wasn't really an aspect of life. That was more, oh, he's just having a sulk, or he's just, oh, he's having a whinge, or oh, he's a soft one, and things along those lines that kind of send you further down and further away from being able to branch out and reach for help. And I think that'd be a great place to start. Yeah.
You mentioned two things. Firstly, men's brains are wired very differently to women, and what happens in a male's mind is very different. Now, being a female, obviously myself, we're all for let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's
Yeah.
get it all out there. We're filled with vocabulary associated with how we feel. What I'm just even reflecting on my husband's like, we just don't talk about it. Describe your
Yeah.
mind when you are in a really dark negative state? Like what emotions are in there?
Um, Personally, when you are struggling with things you don't want other people to know about, it is more not showing a sign of weakness, if that makes sense. So we don't, especially in front of someone like my wife, I don't want the struggle of having to raise a son and build a family be compounded by, oh, my husband's thinking about this, this, and this, and he's struggling with that. And that's another thing she has to take on board. When, especially out in the open and in society, it is my job to provide, and it is my job to be that kind of rock that's there for everybody else. So to then open up and be like, I'm really struggling with this, or this is really taming on me, it can come across in our head as though we're just adding more to the pile. And that's not our job. Our job is to reduce that and to be everyone's support system. So when we, are told to talk and are told to express how we're feeling, it can be frustrating. Yeah.
Okay, woman here, what's a good way for women to tell their partners who they feel something's going on rather than saying, come on, let's talk about it? What's an ideal way that we can encourage men to open up?
I think talking men with each other is a great start. So if you can find someone that isn't going to just, oh, toughen up, have a beer with me, have a drink, have this. Oh, we'll go to the park, we'll do this. Like you need to have someone there that, even just a mate at first, or someone at work that you're not really close with, but will just listen. Start there, and then you'll get in the habit of being able to express how you feel without that anger or that negative tone or that aggression coming through it, which is where it all starts, because it's all so pent up. When you first open up, it can be really aggressive and emotional, and that can be quite confronting. Like men, we can be loud, it's a bit more over the top, and that kind of then starts that negative impact. So if I come out and the first time I say how I'm feeling to my partner, it's really aggressive and it's really negatively toned, that can put a really bad aspect into the relationship of, well, if I ask how he's doing next time, I'm just going to get screamed at again, so I'm not going to
So we're
ask.
not going
And
to
then
talk
it's
about it.
that kind of,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's interesting, an overwhelming experience for yourself. We interpret it as, come on, just do it. But there's a flip side to it. Yeah. Interesting. That's good. So encourage your partner to interact with mates, to have that letdown period, and then find the right time to communicate. You also mentioned 10 years ago, people would identify your behavior as being soft or just a wuss kind of thing. Could you talk more about, if you're feeling comfortable, firstly, to talk about the challenges you experienced in your adolescence, you would say, or even earlier, which
yeah,
led you to
yeah,
being so vulnerable now and realizing you want to make this change, particularly not only for your partner, but also for your son?
yeah. When it started when I was young, I
How young are we talking?
just, we're talking, I was self-harming at the age of 12.
Okay.
That's when it first started. Yeah, so I was very young, very young. No idea what the world was capable of. Um, and it just kind of spiraled, I guess, out of a very simple situation of just not being able to communicate at all. So a group of friends I'd been friends with since I was 7 decided that they were going to be friends with other people. And in primary school, that's the end of the world. You've lost your best mate.
Yeah.
Whole world's over. And so not feeling comfortable enough to talk to anybody about that, you kind of fall into this bubble of, well, it's only me, and it's me against everyone else. And then you build up your brick wall, and the wall gets so big that no one can get in. And I always describe it as like a like a dark dirt hole, and you're at the bottom and you're looking up and there's this light right up the top, but there's nothing to grab onto. And so you're just looking up and go, I'm never getting there. Maybe I can go through the other side. And you just keep digging. And eventually you're so far down, you can't hear anyone. You can't listen to anybody. And it's all literally like you're in this dark hole, which is really upsetting and really dark and a really negative way to look on life. But you can get there. Like, I've been there, so I understand it. And yeah, it being older now and learning through it all, you really understand that it is just communication, and it is being able to talk and open up about even the small things.
Mm. You
Yeah.
said you were 12 and the friends you had from primary school were no longer there in your adolescence. And it's so interesting you said that, because when the child's younger, their parents are their world. They go to their parents for their advice. However, when adolescence hit, a child's friends are their world. They take their opinions from their friends, they take advice, and anything their friends say is the word go. And so I can just imagine how challenging that was for you as a 12-year-old in your early adolescence, that your world was no longer accessible for you for support. Now, you mentioned self harming. Before that even existed, or you started doing those behaviors, what did you have any other triggers or warning signs that led you to that?
Um, Isolation's a big one.
Mm.
So I isolated myself from everybody. Even on the playground, I'd sit alone in a classroom, or I'd sit in a dark corner under a tree and stuff like that. So that's a very early sign of it, is just isolating. I'd come home from school and not talk to mum and dad. Sit in my room, sit out the back, not talk to my siblings, little things like that. And you just start to push everybody else away.
Mm.
Teachers, parents, especially siblings, if you have any. Um, and that's kind of where it begins, and that's the start. And then it's, okay, well, maybe this will help. So you go and you draw, you go and you color in, and then because you're doing all isolated tasks, you just feel more and more isolated, and it's kind of like that downward slope where, well, there's no one to talk to and there's no one to hang around with, and so I guess it's just me, and that's, you start talking to yourself in your head, and it
Negative
just gets
talk.
more and more negative.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. As a child, did you have any academic challenges or learning difficulties that would have contributed to the way you were feeling, or was it purely related to the social aspects of not feeling belonging and a sense of friendship groups as well?
Yeah, I surprisingly did really well in school. So I was
Mm.
um, placed into the selective stream for my first year of high school into Moorebank, which is
Okay.
like a higher learning stream, I think is how it was described. So yeah, I was really well with my grades and my schooling at first, towards the end of like that last year in primary school, and everything wasn't hugely affected. And then the classes that I enjoyed in high school, I still did quite well in, just because of I didn't get distracted by anything but myself, if that makes sense.
Mm,
So through
mm.
that whole, now going into my teenage years, learning through school and everything, if I enjoyed a subject that I was learning in, I still was able to do quite well in that,
Mm.
just purely based on the fact of, well, it was only me anyway. Like, I didn't have my mates next to me mucking around, or I didn't have the distraction of a girlfriend or anything like that. It was just, oh, I like this, I might as well do it. Like, I'm stuck in
Yeah.
class for an hour anyway.
Did
Yeah.
any did did anyone approach you from like a teaching perspective, teachers, to say, "Hey Ben, you're not yourself. What's going on? Your academic performance slightly changing." Any alarm bells that the teachers were able to help you with?
Unfortunately, I was at a amazing school, but it's an Anglican private school, and so
Mm,
it was just more um, academic based. And if anyone was struggling, there wasn't a large support network there. There
okay.
was like a parade group that you could go to, or you could speak to the reverend about what's going on. There wasn't a whole lot of support out there, I guess is the right way.
Mm, mm,
Had a
mm.
couple teachers that, from what I've been told now that I'm older, had contacted my parents and been like, "Oh, we're worried about this," or "Oh, we've noticed this. Is everything okay?" And so, to hearing that when you're an adult, it makes you understand. Okay, there actually was a support network there, but in the moment, in the time, I think it's hard for teachers to approach 13, 14, 15-year-old kids and be like, "What's going on? What's wrong?" When there's not a real connection there. Like, you maybe have in high school, you've got maybe 2 or 3 math lessons a week. Like, you're not doing math
Yeah,
every day.
yeah.
And so there's not a whole lot of interaction with the same teacher to be able to build such a strong connection where, as an adult, you feel close enough to a student that you can approach them and be like, "What's going on?"
It's so interesting you say that, because not long ago I interviewed a social worker who specializes with kids that are foster children, and she raised red flags about the academic system. In primary school, children have better success because of the connection that they have with that one teacher for the whole year. But the minute that they transition into high school, they have 4 or 5 lessons a day, and their ability to engage and build that trusting connection with a student is so cut short, because like what you said, you might have maths twice a week, and the minute you start to feel you're building that connection with the teacher, it's like, oh, the year's over, and it's like a reset button. So it's so interesting that you say that. It really reinforces the aspect of building that connection so people can feel safe, a sense of belonging, and they feel comfortable to talk about what they're experiencing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. So then did you feel you were masking a lot of the time to stop the attention to yourself?
Yeah, it's a weird one, right? It's
Mm,
one of those things where self harm. I'm not sure how it is portrayed today. I'm not in that scene, obviously,
mm,
as much. Um, but back in the day, it was kind of seen as like this whole attention seeking side
mm,
where it it is a kid asking, this isn't normal, like that's how they're showing they need help. It's not a healthy way in any way whatsoever of determining if someone needs help. Um, so it's like a catch-22. You're doing something that is a really negative action, hoping to get a positive reaction out of that, in the sense of you get a release from the stress from your action, but also it's a chance for someone to see something really bad happening and going, this person needs help. This is how I've noticed, and that's where it can start. Um, so you, as a person, shelter yourself, I guess, and try not to let anyone know what's going on. But as someone from the outside and being that person on the outside now, if you notice anything, that's a telltale sign of they might not be just looking for attention on social media. They might genuinely be struggling.
Yeah, I don't like the phrase attention seeking. I think it's got such a stigma and yucky stigma to it. I actually call it a connection seeking, because I say this every day, a person's behavior is their communication, always,
Yes.
always. And the fact that you described your self harming behaviors as attention seeking, but the reality is it's connection seeking because you needed that
Yeah.
support. And I feel, as you said earlier, we're progressing as a society to start to recognize this, but we're so far
Yeah.
from the actual support. So far, so far. So thank you
Yeah.
for being so vulnerable, so we can just
No, of course.
raise that awareness. So before we
Yeah.
continue, but if anyone is experiencing any challenging moments currently, or they want to talk to someone, there is services available like Beyond Blue and Lifeline. And Lifeline have a direct number that's available 24/7. That's 13 11 14. 13 11 14. And if you don't feel comfortable talking on the phone, they have a chat system too, which I think helps the younger population as well, because actually verbally communicating is so hard for people sometimes. So being able to tap into their current interest of texting is just a nice avenue to support their mental health as well. Yeah. Ben, at what point did you start to realize this is not good for me? I need to get help.
It wasn't until I was 18 years old and I was on a heavy amount of medication, regularly seeing psychiatrists, psychologists, and just not getting a positive outcome.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. You said you were
To
medicated. Did you have a
Yep.
diagnosis after that point?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with extreme/severe depression and anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
and then was placed on suicide watch for a long period of time. So I
Okay.
had regular checkups and regular catch-ins and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I got to 18 and
18.
just,
What
yeah.
was the turning moment?
I was traveling overseas with my family, and to take certain medications into certain countries, you need doctor's certificates and doctor's notes and proof of disease and all of this stuff. And that was a lot. And it was very full on for someone just turned 18 doing this amazing trip overseas and so excited to then have that almost anchor come with you, I guess, from back home, where we need to see your doctor's notes, we need to see what the medication is, we need to know why. And it got halfway through into our second country that we were traveling to, and it was kind of like, this is horrible, and I don't want to do this anymore. And it was more that aspect than the I'm hurting other people or I'm upsetting this person or I'm hurting myself. It was more almost that level of embarrassment finally got to a point where that inner voice was like, this is enough. Like, let's really start to turn around.
It was like
Yeah.
every country you would go to, the shame was just flashed back at you going, okay, show us your diagnosis so you can have these meds. It was like a nuisance. You're being a pain for something that is so significant for you. But the reality is, so you can help yourself, you had to pretty much take accountability as well in that moment.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. You kind of had to almost literally look in a mirror and just go, what are you doing? Like, this is not what little me was wanted. and little 8, 9-year-old me that's running around playing soccer and smiling and scrape his knee on a bike. Like that's not who he wants to be. And it's kind of almost going back and seeing him and going on that journey of finding your past self and being able to change that perspective and take it all the negatives possible and take them out and just what can I learn and what can I understand and how can I help others learn and how can I help others understand and bring a whole different perspective, I guess, into my life.
Yeah. So then you've come back from overseas with these feelings of embarrassment and you're ready to change. What did you access? Let's talk about your next step and how you went on your journey of recovery.
Yeah. It started in a way I would not recommend for anybody else. I went cold turkey. So just went, not taking them, don't need them. I'm going to do this myself. And that's looking back extremely dangerous, but also was a Kickstarter into, I guess, what helped me wake up in a sense. Because the medication is there to not slow the brain down, but help with the chemical imbalance that's going on in your head. And so that obviously changes how you react to situations and changes how you develop and all of that aspect. And so to go cold turkey and go, that's my first step is I'm not taking them. Okay, so if I'm not taking them, I need to be doing something that replaces that. So something that's going to positively impact me, something that's going to distract me, something that's able to take up some of my time so I'm not left to sit and think. And so I went with physical health. And
Physical
so
health? Was that
playing football. Yes. So playing soccer, football, as much as possible, off season, on season, training 4 nights a week, and then just reaching out to old friends and friends that I had at the time that were around me and that had been through some of that journey with me, being able to go and lean on them almost and say, if I message you at this time, I'm going to be at your door in my car, we're going for a drive, and little things like that. So being able to take myself out of a situation or out of a place where I was feeling really negative and feeling really sour about life and going, let me find some people I can rely on and some people that I can trust. And in the moment, be able to utilize their friendship and their care for me in a positive manner and really appreciate that.
Again, I want to just put a disclaimer out there. This is Ben's own personal story. And he did go cold turkey and he did say he doesn't recommend it, but please do consult with your GP who will then provide you the appropriate medical intervention that is specific for you. Now, Ben, you know that was the path that you should have taken. Did you go down that path?
Later in life, I did. So you do all the hard yards really early and you get to a point where you're a little bit confident, overconfident almost, where, oh, this is easy now. Like if I feel like this, I just do this. Or if I feel like that, I just do that. And then life comes at you and certain things come up and you fall back into line or you fall back into negative paths and stuff like that. And so later in my adult life, I've been able to go, okay, this is happening. I'm going to see a psychologist and speak to her. Or I'm going to my GP and this is what I'm going to tell them and this is the path that I'm going to take and I'm going to do that properly. And so that being more mature and more understanding of everything, I think that is a way more appropriate path to take.
Yeah. Thank you for your courage, Ben, to be so vulnerable here and discussing the challenges you have throughout your life. Mike, as a mum, the last thing you want is for your child to suffer in silence. Yeah. And I can just imagine your parents repeatedly asking you, what's wrong? What's wrong? And mostly feeling helpless. As a son, what, if you were to go back, what do you wish your parents would have done to give you that support differently so other parents know how to communicate to their kids?
I see it's a hard one
Mm.
because one of your biggest regrets as a son is causing your mum and your dad that much pain and that much torment, I guess.
Mm.
Um, Especially now being a dad, you understand like that's everything and their happiness. And the minute they cry at 2 weeks old, you're like, oh my God, what's wrong? I want to fix it. And anything that's wrong, you want to fix. Um, I think being able to provide as much support as humanly possible. So every step of the way is a check in, and as over the top as it might feel at the time, uh, it doesn't take much for you to understand that mum and dad are actually really there. And I think patience and understanding is a massive thing. So being in a generation where that wasn't really a thing, like that whole self harming and that wasn't understandable to a lot of my parents and their friends and family around the same age. It was that makes no sense. Rather than being frustrated and upset that you don't understand, take the time to learn and take the time to understand why something like that can be happening. And I think if you can relate on any aspect possible, it makes a difference. So being able to understand why they're doing that, you can help to find alternatives rather than being upset that you don't understand and then that just adding fuel to the fire. Because when you don't understand something, you're upset and you're frustrated. And instead of being able to control that and kind of take your emotion out of it as a parent, it kind of can just overflow.
Yeah.
And then so when you see someone that you love and care for so much, you don't understand why that can be happening to them. It kind of, the negative energy just bounces off each other and it just feeds fuel to the fire without even meaning to. And so being able to, yeah, really learn and take the time to understand. And even if your child is seeing someone, talk to their professional that they're talking to afterwards, have a separate meeting and just try to learn as much and understand as much as you can.
I heard a really good quote the other day. It's like, you can't build relationships when you have pain and pain coming together. So it's about, are you interacting with the sense of fear, or are you interacting with the sense of love? And it's always about engage from a place of love as opposed to pain, because then it allows you to open up the channel of that healthy communication and connection, which you perfectly described there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're now in your adulthood and you're building better relationship with friends and you're active in your sport and you're starting to feel better and accessing services to support you as well. Let's talk about the next phase in your life when you are building relationships with your partner and about to start a family. Did you have a sense of oh shit, I'm not ready for this, or am I not going to be good enough, or how am I going to do this, especially knowing your challenges that you experienced?
Yeah. Yeah, of course that plays a massive aspect on your life, I guess. And especially knowing how dark it can get.
Mm.
Uh, when you find out such exciting news, your first thought is, "Oh my God, this is amazing," and then your next thought is, "Oh my God, am I ready?" And
Mm.
everyone says the same thing: "You're never ready. You're never ready." But when you've got such a negative past and a negative outlook on life from your past, it's really, really challenging to be able to actually look forward to something and back yourself and trust yourself that you're going to be able to do what's needed.
Mm.
Um, and I reached out to a life coach or business
Mm.
coach, kind of just the same thing. And that was amazing. That was the sole reason we went through with having Parker. And I am now in a position where I know that I am capable of running a business, being a husband and a father, and being able to manage all that and time manage all that and grow all at the same time, I guess.
Mm. Now, reflecting with as you as a father, what would you do differently, or how would you approach fatherhood given your experiences that you had? Would you be more open in communication, giving him
Yeah,
space? Yeah.
yeah. It started off really easy. I just did research on everything.
Mm.
So learn as much as I could about, okay, what's he going to be like at 1 week? Okay, what's he going to be like at 2 weeks? Okay, what's it going to be like at a month? Okay, what can I expect at 2 months? And constantly learning and updating what I understand is amazing, because then when something happens, you go, oh my God, it's that. Oh my God, I read about that. Okay, that makes sense. Now I'm seeing what I'm learning actually happen in front of me, which is awesome. Um, and then being able to have open communication with my partner and knowing that, okay, it's me and you, not against him, but it's me and you, and then there's him. So we need to be able to understand we're on the same page and we have the same kind of structure of how we want to raise him and how he's going to be treated and all those aspects. And as long as we can openly communicate, okay, I've had a really rough day at work. I'm at about 20% when I walk in the door.
Mm.
What do you 110%? I have to do this, and okay, that can be tomorrow. And just starting with that, immediately she's aware, okay, he's having a rough day. Let's do this and this. He can do this and this. And that way we're working together on different aspects and we're not walking in the door, I'm exhausted, haven't communicated, haven't said hello to my wife after not seeing her all day, kind of shied away from my son. And she's like, what's going on? And we have a fight. So being able to walk in and know that I can say to my partner, I'm struggling today. This has happened. This is what's going on. What is the bare minimum we need to do today? And start from there and then work from there.
I love how you said, what's the bare minimum? It's like we put this expectation on us to always be 100% all the time. However, your
Yeah.
100% could sometimes be just 20%. And it's about
Yeah.
recognizing
Yeah.
what capacity could you be your best self in the moment that you're in. Yeah, yeah. Thank you again. I'm actually very proud of you, Ben. Like I've known you for a few years now, and I'm like, and like I always see this gorgeous smile with giving my skim cappuccino and like my beautiful sandwiches. Like, there's so much more to someone than just their face.
Yeah, that customer service face. No, I
Yeah,
appreciate that. Thank
that
you.
customer service face. But now I know there's that gorgeous spirit inside when you make that coffee for me. So thank you.
Yeah.
If looking back at little Ben, I always ask clients, what would you tell little Ben? If you were to see him now, what would you tell him?
Yeah.
That little boy sitting in the
We
playground. Yeah,
alone, all on his own, not knowing what's to
yeah,
come. I did this exercise with my life coach.
yeah.
So we did this sort of meditation technique where you sit, you close your eyes, you breathe, and you breathe and you breathe and you picture him and you bawling your eyes out as a 24-year-old. You're like, what am I doing? I'm in this
I'm
random
crying to
office
my 7-year-old self.
sobbing and I'm seeing little 12-year-old Ben and I'm crying. I'm like, what's going on? You just
Sorry
tell
for
him it's
laughing
going to
because
be
that's what
okay.
happened to me not long ago. No, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no, we did it, and it was the best. It was the best, I guess, exercise I've ever done.
yeah.
As far as my mental health has been, it took 2 or 3 days, and then you're smiling. You're like, why am I smiling? And it's just that whole out view has changed. Like that little kid that everyone carries with him. He's not crying anymore, and he's not upset anymore, and he's happy and he's looking forward to life for a change, and he's planning stuff for the future. And all of a sudden, my business started flourishing, and my relationship with my partner started flourishing, and you just your creative side of you almost comes back to life, because that's what the creativity is. It's that little kid that sits in the back of your head and he goes, oh, you should color in this, oh, this should be this color, and you're like, why would it be that color? And it finally starts to make sense, and you listen to it just that little bit more, and
Mm.
it's awesome. So you
One of the
tell him it's
biggest
going to be okay.
Yeah. One of the biggest things why I love working pediatrics, because they're just so innocent and always remind you to be childlike. And not in an immature sense, but just to always have
No,
fun. But as you grow up and you've got all these conditions from society and people giving you judgment if you're being silly, it's like, well, then you're like, well, I'm not
yeah,
going to be silly because I don't want to feel those emotions of judgment there. But the minute you start to tap into your creativity and your inner child, it's like that's when you actually come to life and you're being your authentic self, right? And that activity, that activity with the life coach or life coach, or meditator or something.
Yeah, life coach. Yeah.
Listening and talking to your younger self is probably one of the most profound experiences I've ever done too.
Yeah. It's like an out of body experience almost is how it's described. Yeah.
Now let's talk positively. Now, what does the future hold
Let's do
for
it.
Mr. Ben, and how do you feel now moving forward?
Massive family. No, it is. It is a flourishing relationship with my partner, which we are constantly working on. Which I am forever grateful for her. She's a rock, like an absolute rock.
Nicole, did you say?
And I think no, Lauren. Name's Lauren.
Lauren. I thought you said Nicole.
Yeah. No. She's awesome. A rock star. Yeah, I think it starts business wise. How far can we take it, like as a brand and as an experience? And you've been to the cafe enough times, you know that even the staff there, it's okay. Let's have a joke and let's make everybody smile, because that whole let's go to the drive-through and get my coffee. That's easy, and that doesn't have a positive impact on anybody. And sometimes all you need is to walk up and be like, "I got the job," and the person that makes coffee for $5, $6 is just as happy for you as your best mate. And that feeling of being appreciated and wanted and cared for, everybody longs for, everybody needs. And so if I can provide that and I can build a team that understands that culture and can provide that, then that's the path we're going to take.
I agree with the coffee. I used to go to a coffee shop in another suburb during COVID and stuff, and they didn't know my name. And I thought, okay. And I just felt yuck because it was the only one that was close by during COVID in that kilometre walking distance. And I just felt yuck that I've been seeing you for 2 years and you just know me as the skim cappuccino girl, right? Like, oh, you're the skim cap. But then when you go to cafes like yourself and other ones and they actually say your name, hey, Rita, how's your work? Or even, hey, Wita. I'm like, yeah, you feel like family. And you're like, yeah, what else can I do to help you out? Because it does feel like a family aspect, right? And you nailed it perfectly with just really being relatable and understanding with your customers, because we're coming back. And the minute you make us feel shit, we're not coming back.
That's all it takes. One bad experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if it was bad coffee, Ben, I'll still come back because you remembered my name.
So a lot of people say that. A lot of people say, if your service is a 10 out of 10 and your coffee's a 6, I'm coming back because you're going to make me smile. And the smile almost makes it taste better anyway. But obviously don't aim for a 6 out of 10 coffee. But
No.
that is the same. That is the same.
10 out of 10 coffee is my daily thing. I go to the sushi shop behind and I get my coffee. That's my happy place.
That's perfect.
So because we're speaking about the coffee right now, Ben, I had an idea. Now you tell me if you like this idea. I'm going to cut this segment out of the podcast and put it on my social media for people to hear. If you are listening to this podcast and you are in the 2170 Wattle Grove area, I would love you to go see Ben at his wonderful coffee store opposite Coles in Wattle Grove. And if you say the word Wita to Ben or any of the staff, you can get a complimentary coffee from me.
That's perfect. I love it. It's like a little giveaway code. It's awesome.
You know how they said here's my code for 10% off?
Yeah. Like a sponsored episode.
This isn't sponsored.
No, that's
this
awesome.
is just me advocating for how great Ben is his coffee store. But if you're in the area and you feel like a free coffee, go celebrate Ben and his wonderful business and the aspect of communication and connection over, not wine with Wita, but a coffee with Wita. Coffee thanks to Wita.
Caffeine with Wita. No, that's awesome. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do that. Ben, you have been such a true gentleman. And you know, before how you said it wasn't manly to talk about it, I actually think there's so much masculinity in you being so vulnerable and sharing your hardships to support other people. And that in itself is kindness, being humble and just so giving. So thank you for your time and your openness today.
I appreciate that. Thank you for having me and building this platform that enables people such as myself to share stories and open themselves up to be able to help others. And like I said, if you're in the area, the 2170, and you do just need a chat and you need a smile, you can come into the cafe, and I'm sure any of my staff members or myself will be there, and we're always up for a chat. It's half the fun of the business. So by all means.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. It's in Wattle Grove, guys, in 2170 Sydney. Now, Ben, when I interview all my guests, I ask them one question, and now it's your turn. If you were to be, here we go. If you were to be a better version of yourself tomorrow, what word will you apply to yourself today?
That's a great question. It's a thinker. It's a real thinker. Patience.
Why?
Patience. Patience is a virtue, as the saying goes. But I think there is a lot to gain out of taking 10 seconds to stop and think and really understand something before you act and respond. I think there's a massive, massive thing to be learned in just being able to wait, hold your breath, catch it, give yourself a minute, and take your time to do stuff properly and effectively rather than jumping in and rushing in and making mistakes.
That was perfect. Thank you. And again, guys, if you are having any hesitations or concerns about how you're feeling with your mental health, you are not a burden to the system. You are so worthy of expressing yourself because you were made to be here on this planet, and your life is worth living. So please do contact any available services like Beyond Blue, Lifeline on 13 11 14. Because you are worthy of being heard, seen, and valued too. And then again, as I said earlier, do consult with your GP if you need additional services as well. So thank you, Ben, for sharing a wine with Wita tonight. And I look forward to seeing you soon and enjoying a cup of coffee.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's been amazing. Thank you.
And everyone, thank you for joining Wine with Wita. And I look forward to bringing you another episode very soon. Take care. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Wine with Wita. I hope you found some new inspiration, learnt something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you please leave a 5-star review, as it really helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it takes 5 seconds. If you're keen for more strategies and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow RS Speech Pathology.